So here's an example of a pretty well structured answer. On the one hand, yes, laws are enough to tackle inequality and discrimination in society, as in 2010, new legislation was passed called the Equality Act. There you go, so that's the opening statement. Yes, they're enough because we have the Equality Act. Then she goes on to explain it. This means that law protects individuals from unfair treatment and promotes a more fair and equal society. She then goes on to say what's part of the Equality Act. Now this sentence is a little jump, it could be tidied up a bit. It says, this tackles inequality in areas such as the Equal Pay Act, sex discrimination, disability discrimination and many others. It's good because she's saying what's in the Act, but she's saying the Act... She's saying that in the Act there are other acts. So perhaps a better way of writing that would be to say this legislation encompasses lots of previous acts, such as the Equal Pay Act, the Sex Discrimination Act, the Disability Discrimination Act. That would be better if you said it encompasses all these previous acts. Or you just say this legislation covers areas such as equal pay, sex discrimination, disability discrimination, and drop the word act. So the sentence itself a bit jumbled, but that aside, nice introduction. Yes, they're enough because we've got the Equality Act. She then goes on to explain what's in it, and then says, by having the Equality Act in place, it's tackling and reducing the inequality and discrimination in modern day society. Full stop. That's the end. She's got her start, she's got her middle, she's got her end. The last bit is a mistake. The last bit there which says, however, some individuals do not follow this legislation. That should be another point. You've made your 1 point. Yes, the legislation is enough. Let me tell you why. Here's the Equality Act. Let me tell you what's in it. Therefore, that law is enough. As a separate point, you might then go, however, it's not enough because laws alone don't protect people. People still discriminate. You still hear racist chants at football matches. You still see homophobia in corridors of schools or whatever else. So that last line there doesn't need to be there. But if we discount that last line, there's a nice structure to the paragraph. Beginning, explanation with good vocabulary, and a close. Okay, so here's an example of a paragraph that could do with just tidying up a little bit. The content's good, it could just do with tidying up. If you look at this first introduction, it says, in order to minimise or even prevent discrimination and inequality in society, you have to change the way people think so their opinion wouldn't be layered with prejudicial thoughts. Great, okay. The next line doesn't need to be there. However, you can't physically do this without harsh laws. Well, you don't need harsh laws to change people's views. That line doesn't need to be there. Remember, our opening line just tells the examiner what are you going to talk about. Well, let's see what they're talking about. If we go into the next part of the answer, it says, one way you could go around this outcome could be about tackling the problem at its source, which would involve people's upbringings, how they see others around them. For example, diversifying schools. Right, now we've hit on the point. This paragraph here is about diversifying schools. They're saying laws don't work because they only govern your behaviour. We need to change your views, and for that you need education. And then, in the middle, they then go on to say how putting people in school together would help them to know and understand one another, and that would be a good way of tackling discrimination. So what we need to do is just tidy up those first 4 lines with something much neater that just tells the examiner, right, what one way, laws on their own wouldn't work. A better alternative to legislation would be education, as you need to change people's views, not just tell them what they can and can't do. So some sort of succinct clarity over what was being said at the beginning would tidy this paragraph up. But otherwise, nice, valid point.